Hey guys, what's up, man? 945 here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be making two anime review videos. Because it's been like a little over a week since I finally finished ReZero, which I kind of took my time watching. I think I took about a month on that or something like that. Um, I didn't make a review for Mob Psycho, so technically this is like my first anime review or reviewing something since I finished Vinland Saga. But or no, oh no, I did do Bleach and Oppenheimer. What am I talking about? I don't know. But yeah, I just finished ReZero like a little over a week ago, and I wanted to let my thoughts collect on it for a little bit. Then I started watching Kaguya-sama, and I became completely obsessed with that over like the past week. I just finished that last night, so I'm going to be making videos about both of those. But the first one I'm going to be talking about is ReZero. Um, Now, before this, the only isekai I'd seen was Sword Art Online. Because, Sword Art Online is like, one of the most common beginner anime for a lot of people. It wasn't my first. I think it was probably like my 11th or 12th or something like that. But it was pretty good. I enjoyed it for what it was. I haven't rewatched my review of it. I don't know how much of what I said still stands, but I enjoyed SAO for what it was. That being said, ReZero is much better. Um, ReZero is an absolute blast from start to frickin' finish. Um, ReZero has such an interesting concept, and it also feels so, I guess, like wonderfully self-aware as an isekai, which is something that I really enjoy because it's like the complete opposite of the total power fantasy type that was SAO. Um, and I think that like the 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 world building and the characters are by far the best parts. I think the world building is definitely the bigger strength of the first season, and the second season focuses a lot more on the characters, and it definitely like ups the strength of the character writing a lot. Um, kind of starting with like the basic character lineup. I love Subaru as a protagonist. I think he's extremely funny. I think he's extremely like relatable. He's so easy to follow. Um, in fact, it's he's like a much better version of Kirito because Kirito was like I enjoyed Kirito, but Kirito is very generic. Um, but like Subaru, like I don't know what it is. He's like generic in kind of the same way, but at the same time, like he's very relatable because like seeing what his return by death ability does to him mentally and like seeing how that affects his mental health and his just resolve and drive to get things done, and like the fact that there's like these like several like spans of like 2 to 3 episodes where you just see him failing over and over and over again and constantly dying, but not before seeing like all of the people that he's close to happen to die in that particular loop before he does. Like seeing that trauma like just raw, it's like it's such a interesting way to write a character because like it's the most like raw version of character development that he could possibly go through, and I really really like that a lot. I really liked it a lot. So I especially like near the end of the first and like middle of the second season, like being able to find out like I think that part of his development works the best, especially near the end of season one. But then he gets even somehow even better in season two because like you're kind of learning how he you kind of get a much better understanding of Subaru's values in season two because like his relationship to a lot of other characters is really like played up in this season, like like his relationship to Otto, to Emilia, to Beatrice, to Ryuzu, um and especially to like Echidna and such are really like played up to the max here. And I think that seeing that side of him while also like understanding his while also like how that like causes more further development of him is just super interesting. I think just like overall Subaru is such a well written protagonist, and I really enjoy him a lot. um Now, as to the other side characters, of which the two main girls that seem to be like a very controversial debate, which was kind of the only main thing that I knew about this anime before I started watching it, is Emilia versus Rem, and I'm here to tell you there is only one correct answer, and that is Emilia is far superior to Rem. And don't get me wrong, this is coming from someone that has a deep love for both characters. But in terms of like waifu material and also just like general character writing and depth and complexity, Emilia is far better and far more interesting. So I just had to get that out of the way because I feel like I'm reviewing this show. I feel I had to comment on that. Um, but that being said, even though I dislike Rem, I think Emilia is much better than Rem. That doesn't mean I dislike Rem. I think Rem is a fantastic character. I think that like I think the decision to put her on the back burner during the second season was an excellent choice because I feel like it they kind of like um explored all that there was possible to explore between Subaru and Rem in the first season. And I think that like it really emphasized that their relationship, and that was something I enjoyed about season 1 because Subaru and Rem have a very like Subaru has a very unique relationship with all of his different with all the different girl side characters, which I find really interesting, um, because like Rem being like the ideal like thing, I think was really interesting. And I really loved Rem's backstory with the whole like demon thing and stuff like that. And I think one of the absolute peaks of season 1, I think it's like episode 11, is like where it's like either episode 10 or 11 where Rem like confesses her love to Subaru, or at least she feels that in her heart after like Subaru saves her and all that stuff. But like seeing the way that their bond builds after like stopping the mob beasts and stuff like that, and like in general, I'll say that like even over Emilia, I think that like Subaru and Rem's conversations were by far the most entertaining to follow. Because there was just something that I felt like something about their natural chemistry that I thought really, really worked for like their pairing as a character, especially because they spend so much time together throughout the first season. So I feel like this show did a great job of making the two characters like have great chemistry considering the amount of time they spend together. Um, Now, in terms of Emilia, who is my personal favorite character, I think that like her struggles with self identity and like trying to figure out like how to be herself and such and how to like actually rely on others and not put all the guilt on herself. I think it's something that's really interesting that's explored to a decent introductory amount in the first season, but the second season is really where Emilia gets to shine because there's so much character work explored, especially on the relationship between Subaru and Emilia, which like in the first season is like mostly explored as like the typical isekai thing where the main protagonist is like obsessed with the first girl he meets type thing. But like but even during the first season you can actually feel there's like genuine value to that, and it's not as like I guess shallow as like a Kirito Asuna type relationship. Despite how much I did like that. And then in the second season, there's like so much development between the two characters, and seeing how they both work out their problems together, and seeing how Subaru helps Emilia work out uh, her problems, and seeing how Emilia helps Subaru out. I think that like the way that they managed to like balance the two of them helping each other is honestly what made that part of that the most captivating, I think. Um, and and then there's also like the matter of exploring Emilia's backstory, and oh my god, I think Emilia might have like one of the most tragic anime backstories I've ever seen. And this is what I'm talking about with character development, because you take a character like Betelgeuse, who essentially served as like the basic main antagonist along with the White Whale, if you want to count that, for the first season. Um, and and then with this character, you have him as a villain, but in Emilia's backstory, this is someone that she's very attached to, very close with. I could never tell if it was her father figure. That was my prediction, but at the very least, someone very close to Emilia and kind of serving that fatherly role, who is clearly in love with Emilia's mother. Um, but like, seeing the way that that character becomes the villain is just pure mastery of character writing. Like seeing the way that like she like seeing the way that he ends up being the one that kills Emilia's mother. That was crazy shocking. And then that's how he starts like becoming absolutely insane, and it's just it's so it's crazy. But on top of that, like you can tell, like, seeing Emilia as a young kid and seeing the way that, like, how, like, her tragic backstory tended to, like, affect her problems, I guess, and the way that she, like, faces things in the current day is really, really interesting. And like, seeing her development as she, like, confronts her backstory through the trials is really, really great. Um, there's so many characters to talk about. Oh my gosh. Um, the next one I really want to mention is definitely Roswaal. Um, because oh my gosh, what a fascinating character. In the first season, he's like by far the most ambiguous character, and he doesn't really play that big of a role. Beyond being the one that supports Emilia in the royal candidate selection or whatever the heck. And and seeing the way that that relationship develops is just I think it's really interesting because it's kind of like this. You don't find out until much later that, Roswaal was purely using Emilia for his own gain. But then learning the reason behind that is like one of the most fascinating explorations because Roswaal finds out about Subaru's return by death, and it's not really explained how he knows this, which is kind of like normally that would seem like a plot hole, but in this case I think it just adds to the intrigue of his character. And then, like, in various death loops before Subaru dies, like, he does these crazy things where he, like, kills, I think it was, like, Ryuzu, or he kills, like, a ton of characters just, like, completely unprompted. And seeing how he's so unwavering, but then it's not like they still won't tell you like what it is about what he wants until like the very last minute. It's like this perfect balance of remaining like not annoying to of like dragging it out, but also like keeping up that same like level of suspense. Which is like that combination of things makes him such a fascinating, intriguing character because he's completely unpredictable. You have no idea what he's going to do, what his motivations are whatsoever until the show tells you. And then like exploring his past with Echidna and how that led to the creation of the sanctuary was just oh my gosh. And it's this wonderful exploration of like the dangers of self-obsession and lust and things like that. And it's really just really really well done. um I could talk a ton about a lot of the other characters. Like, I loved the arc that Beatrice went on where she like didn't trust people. I thought that was really, really interesting. I loved Emilia's relationship with Puck. I didn't even bring Puck up. Puck was a fantastic character. Um, or another one of my favorite characters, the old man from the first season. Like, oh my god, gotta talk about him real quick. He's one of my favorite characters. Like the way, like his entire arc in the romance story about how he's avenging his wife by killing the White Whale. That was amazing stuff. Echidna being such a fascinating character because of like the nature of her greed and the way that like it gave her such an completely inflated ego that she was just jealous of Amelia and she basically like refused to accept it. And also exploring that and the fact that you have Ryuzu and her relationship with Beatrice was also really really fascinating. I didn't even mention Garfield or Felix or anything like that. Um, um, but I kind of I'm already at like 20 minutes just from talking about the characters. The other major thing that I really, really wanted to talk about was the world building because, like, the way that ReZero sets up its world and its locations is so, so great. Like, the way that, like, in the beginning episodes of the first season, the mystery, how the mystery of Return by Death is built up is just done in such a captivating way. It really, like, glues you, it keeps your attention glued on, um, because you're in constant anticipation of what's going to happen next. Um, and another thing I find really interesting that was created as a result of the nature of Return by Death as a mechanic is like, I don't know how true this is for people watching ReZero, but like for me while I was watching, even though there was like a large part of my brain that was like, this is anime, this is an isekai, there's no way that this mechanic of his is going to fail. There was always that little part of my brain that was like, what if it does? Then what happens to the story then? And obviously it didn't happen, but like, I don't know how, again, I don't know how like common this was out of people watching ReZero or if I was the only person that this happened to whatsoever, but like, I really thought that that really like showed wonders about how well written Return by Death was as a mechanic. The fact that like it always created that little bit of like tension in my brain as I was watching it happen over and over and over again, especially with the amount of times it happened in the second season. Um, and then like kind of like the way that like the lore around the sanctuary is explored in season 2, obviously like even though season 2 is much more character focused, the fact that it like still brings up so much like mystery and enticement about like excitement about this area as a whole, I think is just fascinating. It's really, really interesting. And also like the way that it builds up the threats of these creatures and like exploring the lore around how like Daphne had done these things 400 years ago. Satella did these things 400 years ago. 400 years ago being a central focus of time here, very nice and consistent that way. And then like building up the threat of the white whale, that actually seeing it in action lives up to what's built up around it. Learning about the oh gosh, whatever the first word in front of the name, I think it's just the killer rabbit maybe. I don't know if it was named after a color or not. And then like understanding like those three things were built by Daphne, the Witch of Greed, or not greed, gluttony. My bad. And then like the way that it like kind of establishes this entire system of witches, because like when with the first season it kind of seems to establish as if like Satella is like this big bad witch, and then the Sin Archbishops, which I presume are like seven of them or whatever, are like the seven like servants of her. But no, it turns out Satella is like one of the 7 or 8 different witches, which I find really interesting because like it's just this fantastic example of world building, because it's like it completely subverts a concept by replacing it with a new one while still making it feel natural and expanding the overall knowledge at the same time. And I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, overall, like, world building is absolutely superb. Other like small things I wanted to mention. The action is really, really good. Obviously, this isn't like an anime that's really centered on the fights necessarily, but like Oh man, like when you see some of those action scenes, they are really really good quality. Um, Another thing I like to mention is I love the character designs in ReZero. I think ReZero might have some of my favorite like character designs out of all the anime I've watched so far. Um, because I just love how like simplistic the facial features are, and I also adore how this like can allow it to be so expressive despite the fact that the facial features are so simplistic. Also, the OST is incredible. Oh my god. I'm not just talking about the openings or endings, which by themselves are both pretty solid, but like the OST itself, oh my god, especially in season 2, there's so many incredible orchestral tracks that are just so perfect for encompassing such a wide range of emotions. So yeah. Overall, ReZero was an absolute blast from start to finish. Definitely my favorite of the two isekai I've seen, although I definitely have plans to watch more. They it's definitely better than Sao, I think overall. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, and I will see you later. Bye.